It is very early in the morning right now. I haven't eaten, I haven't showered, I haven't shaved, I haven't taken a shit. I'm not even wearing pants right now, but none of that matters. Because last night, Poppy dropped a brand new EP out of the fucking blue, and it goes fucking hard. So, what are we gonna do? We're gonna talk about how hard exactly it fucking goes. Poppy, the now Grammy nominated post genre auteur, is back with a brand new EP entitled Eat, her first major release following last year's critically acclaimed I Disagree, an album which saw the once hyper feminine bubblegum pop singer and internet celebrity venture into the world of heavy metal, more specifically industrial metal, alternative metal, nu metal, and gothic metal. With incredibly provocative and poignant lyrics, huge chunky riffs, a very grisly and glitchy kind of sound mix, it stood out immediately as one of the most unique albums of 2020, and if we're being honest, continued to grow on me throughout the year, to the point where it was almost an honorable mention in my top 10 best albums of the year video. Now, Poppy has been teasing new music for quite a few months now, with samples of songs being debuted during NXT wrestling matches, and Poppy even going as far as to perform the original song Eat during her non-televised performance at the Grammy Awards earlier this year. And with specifically these pieces of music in mind, I was preparing myself for a pretty frantic and insane display of Poppy's now somewhat signature blend of heavy metal spices and influences. And yet, despite that, I can very honestly say that I was still not prepared for the freakish and psychotic musical roller coaster that Poppy would subject me to on this EP, that she would practically strap me down to in some kind of grotesque killing joke manner. The EP is consistently very spicy, very eclectic, very unpredictable, and way heavier and way catchier than almost everything we heard on the aforementioned I Disagree. For instance, the track Say Cheese is an incredibly over-the-top and chaotic display of, industrial groove metal, with the kind of rhythmic beatdowns and glitchy passages that I would expect from Underneath from Code Orange. Poppy's very soft-spoken and dreamy clean vocals do a great job at making this a pretty haunting number, but what really scares me about this number is the jazz fusion influence that comes in seemingly out of nowhere at the 1 minute and 27-second mark. I'm not joking with y'all, folks. There's a really sexy, smooth jazz segment sandwiched in between all of the groove-laden industrial chaos, and it even comes with Poppy answering the phone, speaking to somebody in Japanese, and it's weird. The transition back into the heavier parts of Say Cheese is pretty damn exciting too, with some absolutely shredding heavy metal guitar work. It literally sounds like somebody just plugged a chainsaw into a fucking amp. There's also the track Q, which packs some of the biggest, crunchiest grooves and riffs on the entire album, plus some very savage and animalistic drumming, some weird ambient soundscapes. At times, it kind of feels like if Grimes tried to write a Gojira song. Then there's the very angsty and provocative kind of grungy pop metal of Breeders. There's a really disturbing kind of classic industrial synth line that constantly floats above everything. I really like how sharp and toxic and bitter the lyrics are here as well. But the real showstopper is the album's title track, Eat, the same number that Poppy debuted at the Grammys many months ago. I have been pretty much obsessed with this song since that Grammys performance, and that has not changed even the slightest now that I have this number on some kind of official release. I believe with all of my heart that this is not only the best song on the EP, but one of the best songs that Poppy has ever written and ever performed. This is an absolutely scorching number with some really killer guitar and percussion and bass work, Poppy's most ferocious vocals to date without fucking question, and some of her best lyrics to date. Throughout the entire song, she's talking about how depression and anxiety and her own paranoia constantly chip away at her and constantly consume her. They eat her up, and in turn it makes her more depressed, more anxious, more paranoid. It's an endless cycle of being fucking miserable. And to help express that, the track embraces a super powerful kind of mathcore energy that I don't think I've really heard since like the glory days of Ironworks era Dillinger Escape Plan. Now, I do have some minor criticisms and nitpicks. For one, the final track, Dark Dark World, despite some pretty grisly riffs in its final moments, never quite grabs me the way that other tracks like Eat and Say Cheese and Q do. I also don't fully understand why this is being labeled as an NXT soundtrack. I know that she's performed some of these songs ever so briefly on the program, but even so, it just doesn't really seem necessary to label this as an official soundtrack. But hey, fuck it. I still enjoyed the ever-living shit out of this EP. I'd feel very comfortable giving this a very enthusiastic 4 to 5 and saying that this is, at least of Poppy's metal material, her best record yet. Which I guess isn't really saying a lot since there's only one other record, but that's not really the fucking point. The point is, this shit fucking slaps. It's heavier, it's louder, it's crazier, it's way more ambitious. Poppy is clearly invested full time in the world of heavy metal now and in exploring as many pockets of this genre as possible, and I love it. The EP's big, bold, anthemic hooks and grisly guitars and relatively short runtime would actually make this a really strong entry point for anyone who was not intimately familiar with Poppy or even with heavy metal and extreme music. Of course, the people who hate it I disagree will probably still hate this, but, you know, fuck it. I don't really care. Poppy clearly doesn't really care as she's going further down the heavy metal rabbit hole, and I'm super pumped to see where that adventure takes her next. 4 to 5, a fucking great EP. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.